All right, good evening, everyone. All right, I'd like to bring out your council member, Debbie Rose. And your mayor, Bill de Blasio. So I'd like to invite up Eric Dukes to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Eric. So I'd like to thank our host for this evening, Curtis High School, Principal Greg Janicki, and our co-sponsors, Community Board 1, True to Life, Occupy the Block, the African Refuge Empowerment Zone, La Comena, Forest Avenue Business Improvement District, El Centro del Inmigrante, United Staten Island Veterans Organization, Mothers Against Senseless Killing, MASK, the Bangladeshi American Advocacy Group, BAG, and New York Muslims United. Now I'd like to invite up your Assembly Member, Matt Tatone, to give brief greetings. Assembly Member Tatone.
Thank you, and good evening. Mr. Mayor, welcome back. Debbie, you know this room loves you. So, Mr. Mayor, one of the biggest issues on Staten Island, you may or may not know, and I think there's a consensus in this room, the Staten Island Yankees are looking at changing their name. And they've come up with the Staten Island Pizza Rats. And I think the consensus in this room is that the only name worse than that would be Red Sox. Mr. Mayor, thank you. So often, especially during the winter, I think of you when I see that the streets are being plowed immediately, and we truly appreciate that. We see that you are paving our roads really with a great expediency, and you're making them safer, and that we are truly grateful for. And we are also very grateful for the universal pre-K and all that you have done for Staten Island. And I don't think there are many Staten Islanders who realize this, but Mayor Bill de Blasio has been to Staten Island more times than the last two mayors combined. So we thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. And we are grateful that it's Debbie Rose who gets you here. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Everyone, your Assembly Member, Matt Tatone. Now I'd like to hand this over for your council member and tonight's moderator, Debbie Rose.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. This is such a great crowd. I want you to start by giving the mayor a good North Shore welcome. Let's give him a big round of applause. I want to thank Assemblyman Tatone for his remarks and for acknowledging that this mayor has been most attentive to Staten Island, and especially the North Shore. So I want to say good evening to all of you, and I want to thank the mayor for joining us this evening for a conversation about the North Shore and our issues. And I know you understand if I say Staten Island has issues, right? We have issues. But like so many other parts of the city, the North Shore is a collection of neighborhoods and cultures. We are the most diverse city council district. And I think you see it in the reflection in this room and the co-sponsors of this event. And so my grandparents settled here, and I'm a native Staten Islander, and they settled here because they thought this was a good place to be. And so my hope is that my grandchildren will be able to have and enjoy the investments that we're seeing now. And so I want to say that we have a lot to celebrate already. Now, when the mayor comes to town, it's like Christmas, okay? Yep, we're looking for the presents under the tree. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just want to let you know up front, we're looking for those presents under the tree. But we have a lot to celebrate. We've been blessed by the largesse of this mayor. We have new parks, and I know Staten Island's the borough of parks, but I'm almost able to say that the North Shore is the district of parks on Staten Island, because thanks to Commissioner Silva, we have almost renovated every park in the North Shore. We have new parks. We have new schools, and we have new jobs. The development on the waterfront has provided and will provide over 3,000 jobs when it opens. And so this mayor campaigned on equity and, a tale of two cities. And he's done a great job in terms of changing that. We see universal pre-K, affordable housing, community park upgrades, and I'm really proud to say that, I've been able to support these efforts because they've been very beneficial to all of us. So I know we're all excited. I don't want to take too much time. And I know that, like I said, Mr. Mayor, we have issues. I just want to say that on the top of our list has been the lack of recreational facilities. Our beloved Cromwell was a stabilizing center for generations of North Shore residents, and a capital commitment to rebuild is essential and really kind of overdue, so we really are looking forward to that. And we worked so many years to move the Jersey Street sanitation garage, and I have to say, through the efforts of this mayor and the commissioner, we not only are moving forward with that plan to move it, but we've actually cut some time off of it. So I want to thank you for that. And so, in terms of public safety and public engagement, I know a big concern for all of us is Tompkinsville Park. And so I know that, and I want to say that we've been working really hard with our police department and our parks department to come up with solutions that will be beneficial to all of our citizens, the people who are impacted by it, the businesses, the neighborhood, and the people who use the park. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to hold the mic any longer because I know that Staten Islanders want to talk to you. So, without further ado, I want to, and this is not an introduction, I just want to welcome you to Mayor de Blasio, who has been a visionary, a strong leader, and has been the architect of many of the things that you are the beneficiary of here on the North Shore. Mayor de Blasio.
You got that one. Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening. All right. Listen, I want to thank everybody for being here. I say this now, this is, I think, my 55th town hall meeting, if I'm counting right. And I love town hall meetings because in a world where there's a lot of people who've gotten a little cynical and a little turned off to being involved, when you come to a town hall meeting, you see the very best in democracy. You see people of all walks of life who come together to make their community better. Voting is very important. There's a lot of other things that are important, but to me, a town hall meeting is people who really mean it. Because you're here to learn, you're here to offer your ideas, you're here to demand change, and I want to thank you. So I hope everyone feels that way, and if you do, please applaud your neighbor, and let's thank each other for being here. I really appreciate that this borough deserves attention from City Hall. Part of why we are doing this week in this borough, and we're going to do it in all the other boroughs too, is because when you really focus in just one borough, a lot gets done. And I know so many people in this community, in this borough, often feel their needs are not being heard. We literally brought the whole government out here, all the heads of all the agencies, a lot of them right here, to make sure we were listening to you. So I'll speak about them and I'll speak about the council member, but I just want to first give honorable mention and appreciation to Assemblyman Matt Titone, who's done extraordinary work. He's aspiring to new great things, and I think he is going to be successful in anything he sets his mind on. But, but I want to tell you, he has fought a really great fight in Albany to make sure that Staten Island and New York City get what we deserve. And I think very fondly, Assemblyman, that many times we have fought shoulder to shoulder, but I also appreciate what you said about the last snowstorm. We were out there in the cold together. This guy he's cool in the saddle when it's cold out. He was dealing with it and working with us to make sure that his community was being served. And he, as everyone here knows, is the kind of guy who cares deeply about the people he serves. So let's give him one big thanks for all he's done. And I'm going to talk about the council member, but I first want to talk about these good people. So every town hall meeting, I try and clue people into the special bonus that goes with a town hall meeting. For the next few hours, the regular part of the town hall meeting is the council member and I will listen to your concerns and do our best to answer. But there's like a bonus round after that, because you have the commissioners of so many of the most important agencies in the city, and these folks really, their work affects your life, and I think in many, many positive ways. But if you want to talk to them, they're right here. You have the leadership of the NYPD in this borough, in this community. Let's thank them for all they do. But I say to people, you do not have to make an appointment. You do not need to go to Manhattan. They're all right here. You just have to walk up and talk to them. Now, I'm constantly asked the question at town hall meetings, should you feel comfortable doing that? You know these people are hardworking. They're great public servants. They've had a long day. Should you feel comfortable? Is it appropriate to keep them here even later? Well, I'm going to tell you it is, because they are so devoted to their jobs. They will stay here all night if you want them to. They always love when I say that. I know they do. I want to ask everyone, we're going to start, I'm going to say a few remarks, and then we're going to open up. When we open it up, we're going to go around, constantly go around the room. Council member will call on people. Here's what I want to ask everyone. In the spirit of democracy, we want to get as many people in as possible. Please, whatever your issue is or concern or question, try and get it out quick so we can get you an answer, and then the next person gets a chance, and the next person. We're going to do this for the next couple hours. The more people participate, the better. So if everyone could try and move it along, we'll try and move it along too. Now, I want to tell you my impression of the work that your council member does. Now, first of all, this is 55 town hall meetings. I want to tell you, this is the most elegant presentation any council member has made. Look at the necklace, the evening black dress. I'm very impressed. Very impressed. I thought she was taking me for a gourmet dinner, and she said, well, go over here first. Debbie Rose, she really works hard for this community. She is persistent. She tends to, she talked about Christmas. She doesn't ask nicely for things. She tends to demand them a little bit, but that's okay because the community deserves it. And, for a long time, people used a phrase, which I find a very sad phrase. I believe it's heartfelt, but I don't want people to feel it anymore. I want us to do better. And the phrase is the forgotten borough. And people should never have to feel their borough is forgotten, which is why we're going to be doing City Hall in your borough every year, which is why we have to show you through actual change, actual policies that people are not forgotten and are being addressed. I think this district within this borough has often felt forgotten too, and felt that there has been inequity. And it's clear here and throughout New York City, there is a history of inequality that we have to overcome. And I was talking to a gentleman earlier today, and a very interesting guy, happens to have done very well in life, and he said to me that he appreciated one of the things we're trying to do, because he said, if people don't feel society is fair, you don't really have the kind of social fabric, the kind of sense of belonging that we would like to have for everyone. If people don't feel they get an equal opportunity, or they don't feel their government is listening to them, it does not create a healthy society. And I understand that for a lot of people in your district, there has been a persistent feeling of that kind of inequality. We're trying through actions to change that. And obviously, there's a big opportunity coming up. This whole discussion of rezoning, I'm sure we'll talk about it tonight, but it's an opportunity to, I think, right a lot of wrongs and make some very big investments. But I want to just be really clear that Debbie Rose has consistently demanded, and she actually is pretty polite about it, but she's persistent, demanded fairness for this community, and she's done a great job at that. Let's thank her for all she's done. Now, I want to just tell you about a few things to start. First, I told you I'm very happy to be here in this celebration of the community and of democracy. And this is a gathering for everyone. I don't care what your political party is, what your beliefs are, everyone needs to be heard. And I want to say in that positive spirit that Staten Island lost an icon today, a long-serving public servant in this community who, Guy Molinari doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican, this is someone you have to say fought for this borough with real passion. And someone who was a real political giant for years and years of service. So I'd like to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence for Guy Molinari. Thank you very much. And before I talk to you about some of the things that we're going to address tonight, I want to make one other statement that is about this district, and it's about Staten Island, it's about the whole city of New York. Just over an hour ago, all over the city, the red light cameras that we had in front of schools had to stop functioning and providing the protection to our kids that they have. I want everyone to understand, because there's all sorts of verbiage out there about these cameras, but I've been involved with this from the beginning. This has never been about revenue. This is not about gotcha. This is about stopping speeding. The only way people get a ticket is if they're speeding near a school. Because we had these cameras in place where they were, speeding went down 60% around schools. Fatalities. Fatalities around schools where the cameras were went down 55%. Lives saved, children's lives saved. That's why it's so important. The Assembly did their job, and thank you. The Assembly passed a bill to keep those cameras going and add more for more safety. Thank you. The governor supports these cameras. That's two of the three parts of the equation we need. What's missing? The state Senate that did not act and needs to come back and protect our kids. This should be the ultimate nonpartisan issue. So we're going to keep fighting for it. And there's summer school, so I'm worried about the kids going to summer school, but I'm really worried about 6 weeks when the regular school year begins. And just, we have to send a message to everyone in the state Senate, just come back and finish the job and protect our kids. You agree with that? Well, let me now talk to you about, since we're talking about kids, this is so important to me, and you heard it referenced before. Anyone who's watched the work of this administration knows the number one concern I have is for kids and for making sure they get a good education. Pre-K for all has been a huge success, and by the way, it has particularly been a success for Staten Island. Because it turns out when you actually look at the numbers, Staten Island did not have enough full-day pre-K seats. So I happen to have some numbers for you here. I just happen to have them. The school year that I came into office, there were 500 full-day pre-K seats in your council district, 500. There are now 1,360 full-day pre-K seats. But wait, I always like to borrow this from late-night television from the advertisements, but wait, there's more. The 3K initiative, early childhood education for 3-year-olds for free. We have started to roll it out in a few districts. Now, I don't think anyone here would be troubled if I told you that in many instances in the history of this city, and I say this as a proud Brooklynite, and I bet Staten Islanders could agree with me quickly, a lot of times when good, new, big things were happening, they started in Manhattan, and eventually we in the outer boroughs got them. With 3K, we've started in a few places, but I can tell you that Staten Island will have full-day 3K for all its children ahead of some parts of Manhattan. So, starting not in 6 weeks, but in a year and 6 weeks, full-day 3K will come to Staten Island, the whole borough, and that's going to be a game changer for families. I also want to do a little public service announcement here because it's always amazing to me. I got to ask people to take a little poll here on after school. Please answer honestly. Did you know before this meeting that after school programs are free and available to all middle school students in this city? All 6th grader, 7th grader, 8th grader. If you knew that, raise your hand. Wow. Okay, you are a very well-informed crowd, and I'm glad you know that. But everyone who knows that and everyone who just learned it, it's really important. Parents need this, kids need this. It's typically 3 hours after school of quality tutoring, enrichment programs, cultural programs, recreation programs in a safe setting in your neighborhood. It's not always in your same school, but it's in your neighborhood, and it's free. So in this community, where am I? Hold on, I can do this. Here we go. So before we made it free and we made it for everyone in this community, there were under 400 seats. There are now 554 seats, full day free, after school for middle school kids for free, and any kid who needs it. This is the important part. Any kid who needs it gets it for free. So I need everyone to spread the word to families that if their child is not enrolled for after school and they're a middle school kid starting this September, get them enrolled now. So everyone who will guarantee me they will help to spread the word on middle school for after school for middle school kids. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, I can get this right, Debbie, don't you worry. Let's talk for a quick moment about public safety. And I want to brag about what NYPD is doing. The NYPD keeps setting records. 2017 was the safest year that we have had since the records have been kept. 2017 had crime levels we have not seen since the 1950s. Let's thank everyone here from the NYPD. We have neighborhood policing now all over the city, NCO program in all of your precincts. This is revolutionizing how we go about policing. We're using better strategies, better training, better technology. I am proud to say that last year was a record-setting year, but guess what? For 2018 in this borough, index crime, that's the most serious crimes, overall index crime is down another 3% this year already. Let's thank the NYPD for that. Now, got a few more quick things, and then we're going to open up. So, the council member talked about parks and her commitment to parks. She has been extraordinarily committed. She's pushed us hard to make investments. I am really proud of this. $26 million in investments, and that has made a big difference. So, a variety of things have been done at parks around the community. New basketball courts, new play equipment, new landscaping, all sorts of things. These are the ones that have been done already or are about to be done. The Big Park, I like that name, The Big Park. DeMatti, Levy or Levi? Levy, thank you. And McDonald Playgrounds. All of those done or about to be done and coming soon. One more. It's a little over a year away. Rebuilding the 5K running trail at Clove Lakes. That will be done soon as well. And thanks to funding also, and the council member has put her money where her mouth is, funding for Clove Lake, and I want to thank Clove Lakes and also the borough president as well. So let's thank the council member for that investment. Okay, and the last one I want to talk about, a lot of people say to me when they come up to me here in this borough or talk to me about Staten Island, they talk about the roads, which obviously there's no borough that depends on the roads more than Staten Island. And people talk about roads that are not as good as they would like them to be, which is why we're in the middle of the biggest repaving effort ever. And I want to give you a sense of the sheer magnitude in the last 4 years. So we talk about lane miles. Just think about lane mile means one side of the street or the other. On Staten Island in the last 4 years, we have repaved 775 lane miles in this borough alone. We will be doing another 120 lane miles of repaving this year. So this is growing every year. So we want people to get around and for it to work out for them. So look, what I've talked about here are examples of real investments that make a difference in the community. But now it is your turn to bring up your issues. Council members are going to be calling on people. Again, let's get as many people in as possible, and we'll do the best to give you good answers and get some things done tonight. But most importantly, thank you, everyone, for being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And before I start, I just want to thank, over here in this section are the commissioners, chancellor, chiefs, all of the people in the administration that makes my job easier, that makes the quality of life in our district better. I would like you to acknowledge them. I think we had a wonderful resource fair Tuesday, did we not? It was wonderful. They were very accessible and open and engaging, and I know that no one went away feeling that, they were not addressed. So let's give them a big round of applause. So now, this is what you came here for. And I just want to reiterate some of the, the rules. we would like to hear from as many people as we can. So I'm going to ask you to please keep your questions short. I know we're all very conversant in our issue, so try not to give us the whole history of the issue. Just kind of give us the question so that we can get as many people in. And I promise you, I'm going to sweep. So I don't want anyone to feel like their question might not be answered. So, right here, yes.
Hello.
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 Well, it's more of a
It would be
comment.
nice if you said your name.
My name is Woogie Barry. I live on Staten Island. It's more of a comment than a question.
Okay.
I wanted to thank you, as you both have mentioned, about all the amazing work that has been done for the parks. And it's well appreciated. I would like to thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner Silva and Charles for the amazing work that you do. Sorry,
Thank
nervous.
you. That's okay. We'll take that one.
Okay.
We don't get many of those, so we'll take it. Thank you.
Right? Yes, sir.
My name is Michael Scanlon. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask you a question. In your budget, you provided money for tenants to get free lawyers
Yeah.
in landlord-tenant court.
Yes.
I own two houses. One I live in, one my parents live in, my mother lives in. Excuse me. I have an apartment in each of them. That's it. I don't own 20 apartment buildings.
Yeah.
I use that mortgage, that rent to pay my mortgage. Why is it that I don't get help? Why do I have to pay for a lawyer when the tenant who isn't paying my rent is getting a free lawyer?
I really appreciate the question, and this is something we have to find a better solution to. So I'm happy to agree with you because there's a whole lot of people in this city like you who are just family owners of buildings. By the way, most landlords do their job properly. The folks that we're really trying to protect tenants from are by no means the majority of landlords. Unfortunately, that unfortunate few has had a very bad impact on a lot of people's lives. But you're also right, that doesn't mean tenants are always perfect either. So one of the things we have found is that having a lawyer actually can lead to resolution of the issue better than not. What we found a lot of times was when tenants didn't have lawyers, a lot of times things dragged on. A lawyer can often work with everyone involved to try and get some resolution. But I think it's fair to say there are smaller landlords sometimes who have their own problems and are not doing anything wrong and need to get some kind of support in that process too. I wish I had a perfect answer. I don't have a perfect answer, but Grace, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I would like you to work on this because there's Grace Bonilla, who is the administrator of the Human Resources Administration. They run the legal assistance program. Because I do believe there's an unanswered piece of the equation, and I think we should try and find some way, maybe it's a mediation structure or something, when it's the family kind of landlords, and there may be a way to help address their concerns too. So tell me if you have anything, otherwise you get the assignment to help us work it out.
I will take the assignment, and I'll have to talk to you and see what you're up against.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Hey there.
So much.
Thank you.
I just can't thank you enough for what you've done for me.
Thank
And
you.
I just would like to offer my services to you.
Thank you.
I'm an advocate, and I go to all these meetings, as you know. And my heart is for the animals, sir. And because I always tell the truth, I've always offered Risa Winstock this story, so I want to offer it to you face to face now.
Thank you.
I am involved with Neighborhood Cats. I've been doing this since 2010. And I keep saying, people like me, I will do it for free. I will tell the truth. What I want to do is go to the shelters, because I do that anyway on my free time. Debbie knows how I am, my love for the animals. But my thing is this, the 18-hour hold when the animals are being killed, I want you to look better. And it hurts me more when they say things like, oh, the animal's killed, they had no life. Just a little bit more time. And I know the people that I'm with, we're working on that. And we're doing it for free.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to understand, I think the world of you, and it hurts
Thank
me
you.
very much when people are saying that you don't care, because I know you
Okay.
do.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, and I appreciate it. So there's no question, thank you for the good work you do, and obviously we've been trying to make sure there are appropriate shelters in every borough, which wasn't the case in the past, and that we've improved the way they are operated. But I have heard this concern before about whether we're getting the timing right. So I'm happy to have us see if we can do better on that front. I can't give you a perfect answer tonight because I don't have all the facts. But Marco Carrion, who started the meeting, I'd like him and his team to follow up with you and hear what you're proposing, and then we'll get you an answer back soon on what we think we can do. Thank you very much.
Gentleman on the end, yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
My name is Julius Walker. I work with the Archers program on Staten Island here. And in my short time on the island, I've noticed that there's a lot of territorialism and gang problems on this island. But I see very few safe zones for us to try to bring these factions together in a place where they can be kids again. I think we're allowing our young people to grow up too fast with the wrong ideas. So I would like to know, is there any plans in your mind or in the person's mind that they will create some safe zones? Because I believe there's a couple of places I've identified myself that might be helpful to this cause.
When you help me out, I think I understand what you mean by safe zone, but let me confirm it and for everyone's benefit. What would you like to see?
Well, I have an idea called the drop-in program, which would be better known as the DIP, and we need a building to do it in. Right now, we're able to operate in the probation building, but we're limited to just people on probation. The problem goes far beyond just probationers. We need some preventive work done as well. We're doing a lot of post-work, and I think we're doing this successfully, but there's some preventive work that we need to do on this island. This is my community
And specifically, your idea is to bring kids who unfortunately are involved in gangs together in a place that might allow for some mediation, or what's the vision?
Well, I'm not trying to usurp what True to Life does because they do an excellent job on Staten Island, but I'm trying to create a specific space that would encompass the ability for all the islanders to come. Because
What I'd like to do is have our commissioner, I don't know, is our commissioner for DYCD, is Bill Chong here? Yes. There he is. Okay, you could follow up. So the commissioner for our Department of Youth and Community Development that runs a lot of our different initiatives, I'd like him to meet with you, and we'll consult with NYPD as well and see if there's something that would add to what we need to do. Commissioner Chong will take the lead. He'll follow up with you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Ms.
Carr. Good evening. My name is Gwen Carr. I'm the mother of Eric Garner, who was killed 4 years ago. And it's been 4 years since my son's murder, and it's been very hard on me and my family. And but it seems like that the administration is blocking the accountability for, what's for the justice for my son, and this just makes the 4 years worse for me. I'm just sick and tired of the political games that the administration is playing 4 years and continues to play games. And, while the police officer, Danny Pantaleo, chokehold my son to death, and he said, "I can't breathe," 11 times. And there was other officers that pounced on him as well. And being that he said, "I can't breathe," and other officers, they tried to cover it up. And I just think that that was disgraceful, and nothing has moved forward as of now. And, what I'm trying to say is that this is not a game. It's not politics with me and my family. This is serious. My son, Eric Garner's life mattered. And it's unacceptable that the administration is only planning to discipline Pantaleo and Adonis when there was at least a dozen more officers who was involved in the killing of my son that day. And even with them going to discipline them, they're talking about next year. Next year is unacceptable. We need action now. So I need to know, Mayor, because you know, as a man, I love you, but the politics stinks. I have to just say, the misconduct, that resulted in my son's killing that day, it just brings me, to tears when I think about the officer who killed my son is now getting a six-figure salary. He is also allowed to financially profit from murdering my son. And I just don't think this is fair. And he's allowed to have, he's got 10 years in now, being that no disciplinary actions that's taken. So I just think that all of this is ridiculous. He should be fired, along with the other officers. He should be fired.
Thank you, Ms. Carr.
And we don't need them to be on the police force because...
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to say that, the police officers, I think they do a good job, but the ones who don't, we need to get rid of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, okay, let me ask my question. I just want to know, would you agree to holding all of those officers accountable for their wrongdoing that day when they killed my son? And because I'm, don't want to play any more political procrastination games.
Ms. Carr, thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Ms. Carr, I'm going to do my best to both answer your direct question, but also speak about what has happened in this city since that tragedy. And I don't think what I'm going to say is going to satisfy you, but I want to just tell you straight up, I have a lot of respect for you. I have a lot of appreciation for your efforts to try and make sure that others will be safe going forward. And I know you do that with a real spirit of kindness and decency to try and help others. The fact is that in any departmental proceeding, and I think a lot of people do not understand this, I don't blame them, but I don't think they understand it, that it's an occupational, it's a professional proceeding. It has nothing to do with the law enforcement process. You know this, but I'm just saying this for the whole audience. The question of law and a violation of law, that's looked at this point by the Justice Department. We know, and I'm not trying to pass a buck, I'm trying to just make clear, we still don't have a clear answer from the Justice Department what they're going to do. The only thing we know is that the Justice Department has said the NYPD can go ahead with its own internal disciplinary process with no bearing on the Justice Department case. We still, all of us, would like an answer up or down from the Justice Department about what they intend to do. I respect the NYPD's internal disciplinary process. There is due process. It is immediately beginning. We've made that very clear. There will be a public trial. There will be due process. Everyone will have their opportunity to be heard. It will be those two officers. That is a decision that came out of a previous review of the situation. And I know you disagree with that, but I want to be straightforward. But I want to say to you at the same time, and I want to credit you and your family and a lot of other people who have stood up, a whole series of things have changed. And it began with, and I want to give Commissioner Bratton credit for from the very moment he saw the video and spoke to it publicly, initiating the retraining of the entire police force, which had never been done in the history of this city. De-escalation training is now something every single police officer gets, not just new recruits, every officer gets, and then every year there's retraining. I'm not saying we're perfect yet, but I think the way officers are dealing with very challenging situations now has changed in many, many ways in a visible way. The neighborhood policing philosophy, which emphasizes building personal relationships and officers staying in a community, not rotating around all over the place, but actually staying in place and getting to know people humanly, is changing things. Implicit bias training, which is now started in this city and will eventually reach the entire force, is something, and you've been at this a long time working for a fairer city, that would have been impossible to believe not long ago in New York City, that we would do implicit bias training and recognize that we had to address that in our police force. It is now happening for the whole force. We are far from perfect, but I know in terms of the everyday life of people, and I think it's very much connected to getting rid of the broken policy of stop and frisk and a lot of other changes, we can create a more humane and compassionate relationship between our communities and our police. And I wish from the bottom of my heart that your son were still here. I'm so sorry he is not. But in terms of the changes that have happened since his death, he did not die in vain. A lot of change has happened, and a lot of people's lives will be the better for it. I thank you.
Thank you. No. That's not the format. No, the question was asked, it was answered, and we can meet after that with the appropriate people. No, you're out of order. No. Ms. Carr, I promise that we will get the opportunity to have a conversation with someone who can answer your question.
Let's
That's
keep going.
it.
Look, we do
That's
things, we
it.
call on people,
Okay,
so wait and be called on like everyone else. Go ahead.
So is that, yes, okay. The young man in the orange, yes.
Hi, how are you, Ms. Rose? How are you, Mr. de Blasio?
How you doing?
My name is Billy Hayes. I have a question regarding construction today in New York City. And,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say that we need better protection for construction workers in our city. 2 weeks ago, Angelo Espinoza from nearby Rossville, Staten Island, died while working for Pratt Construction in Manhattan. What can we do to make sure that there are proper labor standards for construction workers in our city?
Well, I thank you and your union for fighting for safer construction standards. Look, I think the legislation that was passed last year, and I want to thank the council member and the council, I think really tried to get at the heart of the matter and was done working very closely with the labor movement. As the commissioner will be the first to attest, that is one piece of the equation. But we were down together at the Building Trades Conference 2 years ago, I guess it was, in Florida, and we talked about the ultimate sanction, which is criminal charges, which some of these building owners deserve in some cases. And we will work with law enforcement activities if there was explicit malfeasance that led to a construction worker's life being in danger and they lost their life. All of the other penalties should apply, but criminal charges are also something that we will work with all the prosecutors' offices to bring. But I think my quick answer to you is I think the legislation really got at the kind of training people needed and deserved, and also, again, thanks to the council, clearer standards, clearer penalties for less safe work sites to get them to become safe. And I want to thank Commissioner Chandler and the Buildings Department because they put a lot of energy into getting that legislation right, and now they are ready to vigorously enforce it. So we're all in with you, and if you see specific things that we need to add to it, we want to have that conversation. But I think it's applying the law we have now aggressively, and then sometimes going to criminal charges when needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Right here.
Hi there, Mr. Mayor. This is a challenge my family and I are facing right now. And we have been upstanding members of our community for many years. My husband's born and raised here and was a pastor. For many years, we worked with the youth and took teams of kids into the foster care system and to help the foundling. And we did a lot of things with some of the troubled youth to give them, platforms to showcase their talents. And my husband would speak and we would bring a positive message and just really trying to change the community. We feel called to this Staten Island and the minorities and the people that probably wouldn't walk into churches. We do things a little bit differently. And so even after Hurricane Sandy, my husband and I started the Yellow Boots. That was our kind of initiative, and it's still standing to this day. We housed for free for many months a lot of the hurricane victims. So I'm just trying to give you a background as to who we are. But
okay, I want to stop you to remind you that's all very earnest,
right.
But the council member remind everyone, please don't give too much background so we can get the most people. What can we do for you this evening?
So I just wanted to say my husband had come down with kidney failure. I had a newborn, and he was very colicky. I have 2 other little boys, and so I couldn't get a job. I had lost my job, and I had worked my whole life to get this house. And what happened was I was renting a room in my home to supplement the income just so that we could keep the house. And fast forward now, I find myself in the city is suing us for $700,000.
The city is suing?
Yeah.
I mean, is that the paperwork?
I thought I was, no, this is.
Okay.
It's really
tell us
fast.
which agency. We'll have them follow.
The City of New York, the Supreme Court of New York is suing us because, listen, we have a single-family home in Staten Island. I was under the oppression and have heard many politicians stand up and speak publicly saying that 1- and 2-family homes were exempt from any short-term rental, Airbnb type.
Is that what's about Airbnb? Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, $700,000, I'm going bankrupt. I'm going to be homeless because
let's see what we can do
afford.
to address it. I hear you loud and clear, and obviously, look.
They put Liz pendants on my home.
Ma'am, I hear you. I really do hear you, and we want to see how we can help. Airbnb has been a challenge around the city, but the real culprits are not everyday small homeowners. The real culprits have been some people who have taken advantage of that to try and create hotels, for example, like de facto hotels.
They're trying to make
We're going to follow up with you. Patrick, who is my Staten Island liaison, is going to come over here, talk to you, figure out who in the city can follow up.
Question, though?
No, hold on.
Okay,
I really need to. We got a lot of people. This is an individual matter. He's going to follow up and make sure the right people from the city see how we can help you. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, all right. Right here on the end. Okay. Yes, you on the end. Yes.
Thank you very much. This is my first town hall. I'm new to Staten Island. My question is, I'm a small-time contractor. I started a construction business a couple of years ago, and I've been trying to get certified so I can start working on contracts for the city and give back to the Staten Island community now that I live here. I've been having trouble getting into a mentorship program as a minority certified contractor, whether it's through NYCHA or SBS or SCA.
Okay. You came to the right place. Commissioner, tell him what you can do for him.
So my name is Greg Bishop. I'm the Commissioner of Small Business Services, and I'll talk to you right after this. We certify MWBs. We also have our own construction mentorship program, and we are looking to certify at least 3,000 companies this year. So now I only need 2,999.
Okay. John?
Good evening, Mayor. Welcome back to Staten Island. My name is John Macbeth. I was the leader of Occupy the Block for the last 3.5 years.
Thank you.
I just want the men to be recognized for the hard work that they do. They do it for free. They're out there on their own time. If you guys would just stand up, those of you who stand in the streets.
Okay.
I'm getting there. Yes. And of course, we have other organizations that work alongside us as well. First of all, I want to thank you for your courage regarding closing Rikers Island. I know that was a difficult move for you to make. And I also want to encourage you to look at bail reform a lot closer and get bail reform back to, into a place that is better for everyone. But my question is in relation to Staten Island Community Court. As you know, as you may or may not know, Red Hook Community Court has been active. It's been, those people who have visited have found it to be an amazing outcomes, and we want one here. And we don't want it here next year or 2 years from now. We need it here now. As I explained to the borough president and the councilwoman, every moment that we waste is another moment that somebody falls deeper and deeper into this.
No, I appreciate that. Look, thank you very much. First of all, thank you for the good work you and your colleagues do. Appreciate it very much. Just really quick point that when I talk about the reduction in crime in this city, I always want to give tremendous thanks to NYPD, but they also have a lot of help and a lot of community people who make a huge difference. And, you know, when you're talking about change of the magnitude we're talking about, it does not happen from any one place alone. Active community folks who fight for a safer community make a huge difference. So you guys are great examples of that, and I want to thank you. I want to also note on bail reform, the city's doing a lot, and we will keep doing a lot. We need everyone's help in Albany. Assembly member understands this, and the Assembly's been great on this. Bail reform, if the state legislature, meaning the Senate, would act on bail reform, not only could we change people's lives by keeping them out of jail to begin with, but we could speed up the closure of Rikers very substantially. But we need action. I will only editorialize. I'm not sure the current situation in Albany we're going to see it, but maybe as early as January there'll be a new situation in Albany, and that can be acted on, and we need people's support on that. But on the question of the community court, I fundamentally agree with you. I believe in the Red Hook Community Court deeply. We've been trying to expand the vision around the city, and I did speak this morning with both the district attorney and the borough president, who were very enthusiastic. A council member, I think you're enthusiastic. We've got some consensus going on. We've got a thing we call consensus. So we're going to work with. Now we need the state Office of Court Administration, but I think Staten Island Week is yielding a great deal of focus on this question of the community court. So I hope very soon that we'll get to a point of being able to give you a very specific plan, because I think it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Nicholas Robbins, and since my question revolves around NYCHA, I just want to say thank you to the NYPD for your efforts with NCO training and involving community officers. That has been very substantial to my community and Toad Hill houses. My question revolves around the lead poisoning scandal that has surrounded your administration. And I apologize for my ignorance on the specifics of the details, but I just wanted to know what the city was doing to prevent youth specifically from getting poisoned by lead in NYCHA housing, and the inequality. I feel like it does become an inequality issue because people who have lower income and need to live in housing should not be subject to diseases because of their income injustice and inequality.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the question. So I want to answer the question. I also want to give a little perspective on this issue because it really demands it. And I want to give Vito Mostacciolo credit, who is the new general manager of NYCHA, and to his credit, wants to fix these problems once and for all. I was in a meeting with him just a few weeks ago, and he said part of the problem is no one's ever been sure of which apartments have lead and don't have lead, because in the entire history of people paying attention to lead, which goes back, lead was outlawed, lead paint was outlawed in 1960 in New York City, 1978 nationwide. In all that time, the only thing that NYCHA ever did was they did samples to try and come up with some broad numbers of how many apartments had it and did not have it. So I'm in a meeting with him a few weeks ago, and he says, we need to go count every apartment. And I said, Vito, what does that mean? He said, we have to go to 130,000 apartments that we're not sure about, because there is a group we are pretty damn sure about, but there's 130,000 we're not. We're going to go to all of them and once and for all be able to tell people, yes, there might be lead and we're going to do what we have to do to address it, or no, there is no lead and there never will be. People deserve that kind of very, very clear answer. So I just want to say, for having the audacity to say we're going to go and inspect 130,000 apartments with literally X-ray technology to look into the walls to see if there's any lead in there, that's the kind of hands-on, aggressive approach we need. So please join me in thanking the general manager for coming up with that idea. The bigger picture is, and this is a good thing we as New Yorkers should be proud of, since 2005, lead paint poisoning in the city is down 90%. Really good thing. Really good thing. Thank God, lead paint poisoning is becoming less and less common. It's still a very serious matter. It's actually more prevalent in private housing than it is in NYCHA. NYCHA has had a lot of trouble. I am not here to tell you otherwise, but there has been attention over time in NYCHA. It's public, so there's been attention. There are unfortunately private buildings that have not, those landlords have not always given it the attention it deserves. So what we announced recently was anybody who lives in a building, any kind of building, NYCHA or private, who has a child who tests for too much lead exposure. It's now a very, very rigorous standard. It's a very, even a small amount is considered a problem. We will send the health department over to do an inspection of their apartment, public or private, and to make sure the child gets whatever care they need. We think this aggressive approach with the approach we're going to take at NYCHA is going to keep driving down those numbers. I said recently, just like we're doing with traffic fatalities, we have Vision Zero, and we all know it's a huge goal to say there should never be another traffic crash, but we're taking that audacious attitude that we can keep reducing and keep reducing fatalities on the roads, and it's actually happening. We have the attitude that we're going to eradicate lead paint poisoning in the city. It's actually so few cases now that we are on the verge of eliminating it once and for all. And that's what we intend to do in NYCHA and in private housing. So those efforts you'll be seeing very, very intensely in your development and all around.
Okay. Sarah?
My name is Sarah Blas. I'm a resident of Richmond Terrace, NYCHA. I'm also a mother of 6 and founder of Richmond Terrace Therapeutic Garden. I want to thank both of you for your empathetic and knowledgeable response yesterday. I also want to thank Councilwoman for all of your donations to our therapeutic garden for our art program. Yesterday, you forwarded me to Mr. Vito. We did a walkthrough of the property, and my question is actually to you, Mr. DeVito, who I know you're a father and a grandfather. We did a walkthrough of the park that's full of rust, that's full of peeling paint, a park where a child's finger was amputated. Why is this park still open and accessible to our children?
Thank you.
So first of all, thank you very much for doing the walkthrough with the councilwoman, myself, and my staff. As we mentioned to you yesterday, the playground there needs repairs. Right? So we are reaching out to a vendor to come in and to take some immediate action to address the peeling paint conditions, the cut hazards. The staff yesterday, that was the director of the borough, who gave you a commitment that we would come out there with a vendor and take aggressive action. If we can't make the corrections, then we will close that portion of the playground so it's no longer a hazard for the children.
So let me pick up your question sympathetically. So I'm a parent too, and the last thing we want to do is close off a playground if we don't have to. And on the other hand, the danger is the danger. So this is, everyone in this room can understand that challenge between two opposing needs. How quickly can you get in the folks to do the work?
So
what's the theory here?
So we'll have a contractor out there next week to do an assessment of the conditions.
And how quickly could they act? Because this is the question. I mean, it begs a very fair question. Should you shut it in the meantime? Which, again, I am reticent to do. It's summer. Kids need a place to play, but they also have to be safe. So how quickly can we do it? Or can we isolate, particularly where the cut hazard is, can we isolate that particular piece of equipment until it's fixed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So why don't we all work together to do something to close off the places that are the real serious danger and get the contractor out there quickly to fix the whole thing. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Very good. I can't see. My eyes are bad. Priscilla.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Hi. Priscilla Marco, Van Duzer Street Civic Association. The last time I saw you at a town hall, I asked about the Bay Street corridor. I feel called upon to do that again because we still don't know. We're not any closer to knowing what the infrastructure improvements are going to be. In the meantime, we have traffic that backs up on Bay Street almost on a daily basis, and we have crime along Bay Street, and we have empty storefronts. So we want to know specifically what kinds of improvements we can expect and when can we expect them?
Well, I'll start and say, and the chair of the City Planning Commission, Marissa Lago, is here, and our Small Business Services Commissioner's coming back up. Look, we have been having, I think, a very productive working relationship with the council member. We're on the verge of starting, in a matter of weeks, the process that involves bringing in the community to determine what are the priorities. Council member has the ultimate vote in this matter, But other rezonings, it's very clear what happens. A huge amount of investment comes in from the city that does not come in any other way. I mean, that's just historically clear. Rezoning is a time when the city concentrates a lot of focus on a huge number of infrastructure issues simultaneously. I can't tell you all of them tonight. It comes out of a community process. I can tell you that many tens of millions of dollars flow in the process, and a lot of things get addressed. And you can talk to the council member and other folks in East New York and East Harlem and in Far Rockaway and other places who have gone through it, and Jerome Avenue in the Bronx, to hear what kind of commitments came out for them. But it depended on the place, affordable housing, sometimes it was new schools, new parks, whatever it may happen to be. But we're ready to make a very big financial commitment to this area. Now, that's the first part of the answer. On the question of crime and on the question of the storefronts, I think that both of those go a bit beyond just the rezoning, and we need to address those challenges. So let me first see, Chair Lago, is there anything you want to add to what I just said?
I just wanted...
Let's get you turned on there. Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the council member because the partnership, the way we've worked together, even in advance of the formal process, has been exemplary. And it's good to see you again. I thank you for meeting with me. I guess it was around this time last year. The rezoning follows a comprehensive neighborhood plan that involves not just the Department of City Planning, but all of the agencies that you see here. As the mayor noted, we anticipate in September, after all these years of study and meeting with a council member, with different neighborhood associations, we will launch the formal process. And that provides even more opportunities for input about what the community's priorities are. With respect to zoning, yes, but more importantly, with respect to transportation, parks, other infrastructure. We also bring along as part of the plan the non-capital agencies, but the agencies that deal with human conditions. And with that, I'll turn it over to Greg Bishop.
How you doing? So we've already been on the ground at the Department of Small Business Services working with Staten Island Chamber as a lead agency to actually address conditions with our storefront. So if you've seen the wayfinding that we've done with the marketing of downtown Staten Island, we've done investments in art exhibits to really get individuals coming out of the ferry down, not only on Bay Street, but all the way to Tappan Park. So we have actually funded what we call a needs assessment. It's on our website for anyone who's interested in actually finding out what the community needs in terms of new stores. We will be able to help through our funding with the Staten Island Chamber to actually figure out how to attract merchants. So we're doing a lot, and we'll be happy to tell you what we've done so far.
All right. Chief, speak to the safety issue.
Sure. So overall, crime in the 120 is down this year over last year, and it was down last year over the year before. You know, in particular, there's been a dramatic drop in violence. In the 120, shootings are down 60% over where they were last year. Now that said, there is still crime, and we adjust the deployment accordingly as crime trends emerge. Right now, we have no patterns or anything going on the Bay Street corridor. Deputy Inspector Abbasi is one of the 4 best precinct commanders here in Staten Island, and as such is one of the 4 best precinct commanders in the entire city of New York. I'm going to have one of our community affairs officers from the 120, if you would, just grab your contact information so we can follow up specifically. If you're seeing things that we are not seeing, then we want to make sure that we address that. But right now, generally, we don't have any issues that are caused by the infrastructure or vacant storefronts and so on.
Thank you, Chief.
In the wheelchair.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
My name is William Smith, and I want to thank you for being the mayor. I met your son. My son met you when he was 8 years old. Now he's 18 going to college. He told me make sure I was here to tell you that.
Thank you.
Now, Mayor de Blasio, I want to know who takes care of the issues. I'm getting the co-op, and the co-op is removing the elevator. I'm in a wheelchair on the 3rd floor.
Can you talk into your microphone?
Get the microphone a little closer.
I contacted your office twice. I'm in a co-op, and the elevator is being removed completely.
It's being removed permanently?
For 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
I'm on the 3rd floor, and it's a co-op. I want to know who takes care of that, who's responsible for that, for making sure someone
Yeah.
like myself
Is protected.
disabled.
Yep.
is
That's an
protected.
excellent question. Okay, now this one.
And I did contact your agency,
Okay, we want to address it. Is this
and they're going to do
Which-
that on 30th this month.
so, Victor? There's a great question. I thank you for the question, and I've never heard this before. If a building owner, even say they have a problem with the elevator, it's legitimate, but they're going to remove the service from someone who literally has no choice, what do we do?
We contact Human Rights, and they work on an issue, coming up with a plan to see if they could either place you down in an apartment that's lower or put you on a different site. I will follow up with you, and we'll connect with Human Rights, and then we'll see what we can do to.
Okay.
You'll be in contact with me.
Commissioner Khaleesi, this is where the action is right here. He's going to get things done and work with the. Okay, well, he's going to follow up with you,
I'll
sir.
give you my card, and
He's coming to you.
connect.
But the bottom line is we want to make sure that you're not left in an inappropriate situation, and we're going to learn from this example how to protect other people as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, son.
Mayor Sunny Jain, Community Board 1. First, I would like to thank Commissioner for the Parks for the new initiative that let's fix what we have instead of building new ones. So excellent job, and the community involvement has been very good. Community Board 1 really thanks Commissioner for that. My question is to you on the opioid crisis Staten Island is going through. Unbelievable job done by the New York's bravest and the finest. I have 3 kids born here. We have seen unprecedented growth in the opioid crisis. I know you have met the political setup other day. With all the new initiatives started in the last 2 years, some working, some not working, the numbers are still very staggering high, and it's parents' nightmare with this crisis. What other initiatives, some out-of-box thinking, or what other initiatives can be done at a school level, community level, and other things? We have seen unprecedented growth.
Yes, thank you.
In this
Thank
issue.
you. Now, look, the opioid crisis, in fact, I was with the borough president and the DA today, and some families who have unfortunately lost loved ones because of this crisis and now are involved in advocacy. I want to differ with you only on one thing. It's a horrendous crisis, but I think we are seeing some signs of change. Even with a horrible addition to this reality. Remember, the opioid crisis was raging, and then to make matters worse, we saw more and more fentanyl in the heroin supply, which is particularly fatal. And if all these other measures that everyone's done, NYPD, as you said, FDNY, hospitals, community groups, so many people have been involved in changing the approach. If these different efforts weren't working, we would have lost many, many more people simply because of fentanyl now being in the picture. In fact, we now, because we did something absolutely necessary and gave naloxone to all of our first responders, literally everyone out in communities, police officers, firefighters, EMTs, the number of lives being saved and overdoses being reversed is absolutely outstanding. And that, I think, will continue to grow because we're also providing naloxone to families that fear there may be an overdose. That is having a very big effect. NYPD is, I think, doing some very important work to disrupt the supply of heroin laced with fentanyl. We know in Staten Island already, we're finally seeing a reduction in fatalities. It's a beginning. We have a lot more to do. But I want to emphasize the treatment piece of the equation because there's treatment available right this minute to anyone who has an addiction problem and needs it in this borough and the whole city. We have treatment available. There's still too many people who don't know it's available or feel there's a stigma and aren't coming forward, or their families could help them but don't know there's treatment. And obviously, this is something we talked about a lot today. There's a lot of families that feel the stigma, are having trouble admitting the challenge. One of the folks who was with us today, Michelle Coons, who lost her son Bobby, she said that when her son was first afflicted, when he first showed signs of addiction, she was upset. Her family was upset. They didn't know what to think. It took them a while to recognize it's a disease, and it is. Addiction is a disease. And now she has made it her mission to go out and explain to other people that it's a disease and there's nothing to be ashamed of, and come forward and get help. What I want everyone in this room to know is there's literally one phone number. It's 24 hours a day. Anybody can call if you have an addiction problem, if someone in your life, in your family has an addiction problem, if they need counseling, if they need peer counseling from someone who's been through it, if they need treatment. It's the same number in English, in other languages, it's the same number. It's 888-NYC-WELL. And this needs to spread. People have to start using this number more if we want to save more lives, because with that resource, people literally can get the help they need. So I'm going to ask you to make sure it's in your minds. I'm going to ask everyone to repeat the number with me, please. 1-888-NYC-WELL. Come on, everyone, wake up. Let's try it one more time. 1-888-NYC-WELL. Thank you. So that's the key. Sir, we're going to go to other people, but thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. A few years ago, Staten Island was supposed to be revitalized with New York Wheel and the shopping centers coming in and these hotels being built. But for a very long time, it's in limbo, and nothing's been happening, and it seems to me all the construction froze up and stopped, and I don't see the city being involved in getting some jump started where this would revitalize our whole city and all of New York, for that matter, with a big attraction. And I know it's private, but they're saying it's a legal matter, but it's a money matter. So I think that the city might be able to, I'm not saying the city should put up the money, but I think the city should be involved in trying to get this thing jump-started. It would help the baseball team, it will help all the shopping, the new hotels coming in, and I think it's been a very long time that nobody's been doing anything about it, it's just being ignored.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Look, I totally understand why you feel that, and I want to put your fears to rest a little bit, but I think you're absolutely right, there's more to do. I would say separate the two. The outlets, we feel confident will be open by the end of the year. And the outlets, we're going to work with them on jobs, and our president of the Economic Development Corporation is here, James Patchett. He can speak to this, and Commissioner Bishop can speak to it about how we're going to try and make sure people from the community get jobs. The wheel is, as you just indicated, a different matter, and I like what you said. A legal problem is a money problem. That's pretty much always the case. That one's tougher. Council member has advocated very vigorously that we try and intervene in some way to see if we can address it. I'm willing to see the city push everyone towards resolution. I want to make sure that city resources are protected, because that worries me, because it's a private endeavor. But I do think you're right, and the council member's right. We can try in an aggressive way to get everyone back on the same page and move the effort forward, because it would have a big economic impact. So let's let James Patchett jump in, but I would just put the scorecard as the outlets, I think, are going to work out fine with minimal delay. The wheel, we've got to figure out a creative solution. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, I'm James Patchett, the president of the Economic Development Corporation. We're responsible for all of the projects you referenced. As the mayor said, we expect Empire Outlets to open before the end of the year. It's right here. We expect 1,100 people to get hired as a part of that project. We've already had over 140 people placed in jobs, even though the outlets are not yet open yet. So that's a fantastic start. Frankly, the vast majority of the jobs we expect as a part of the North Shore development are coming from that project, so I think that's critical that that come online as soon as possible. Lighthouse Point, which you didn't talk about, which is on the other side of the ferry terminal, is also under construction. You can probably saw it on the way here. We expect them to finish early next year sometime. They say May, we say maybe June or July, but it is in progress. You can see construction happening. It's rising right over there. There are going to be over 100 units of residential housing there. Affordable housing is a part of that, as well as jobs there. The wheel, you know they're in litigation. You referenced it yourself. I want to assure you it is not something we're taking passively. In fact, immediately prior to this, I was there myself with my team walking the site. Saw all of the construction that is underway and that has been completed to date. We're talking to them about their financing situation. I think as the mayor said, we want to be as helpful as we can. We understand the financing parties they're speaking to. We're going to encourage everyone to come to the table. We're not just going to let it not happen, but ultimately it is a private project and we're going to hold them to that. Thank you.
How you doing? So not only do we help small businesses, but we also help individuals not only find jobs, but train people into new careers. So we work closely with the developers and with EDC to actually place those individuals into the jobs that's at the outlets. But if you or anyone in here is looking for a job or looking to change their career, we run all the Workforce One centers across the city. There's one on Stuyvesant Place right next to Borough Hall. That they can go there, and we help train in not only get you those jobs that's available on the island, but we also train in technology, healthcare, construction, just to name a few. So if anybody's looking for an opportunity, they could also see me after this.
Thank you. Okay. This section, how about way in the back? Young lady here? Yeah. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming out here to Staten Island. I'm Kiara Brown. I'm a part of the NAACP Youth Council. I'm vice president, and I also go to Curtis High School. And last year, I've noticed that after school, I've been followed to the ferry by police cars, and I've talked to my friends about it too, and they often have that same issue also. And also, I have been stopped and questioned too about people I don't even know, but they're just around my age. And I just want to know, or am I allowed to be this closely monitored or something like that? Because I don't feel safe. And if I'm not supposed to be monitored this closely just by going home, is there anyone I could talk to? Because I can't live like this. I can't allow my friends
Tell me,
to live like this.
I want to make sure we address this. Tell me, you're saying you go from where to where?
I go from Curtis High School walking down to the ferry terminal.
Okay. So this is something I want to handle carefully. So, Inspector, obviously, what we've made a whole point of in neighborhood policing is to try and work with people, talk to people, not do what we saw too often in the past, which was a kind of profiling that really was wrong, but also really harmed the relationship between police and community. So, Inspector, in terms of trying to get to the bottom of what's going on here, how do you want to proceed?
So thank you very much for this. It really is a great question, and it kind of illustrates what we're doing in the 120. This year at Curtis, especially toward the end of the year, we've had some incidents where students were being victimized. There were some students from Curtis and McKee that were having issues, and we deployed to that, and I'm sure you're aware of those issues. Part of that deployment is stopping and checking with the kids and making sure that they're okay, and if it looks like there's an altercation, trying to get into the middle of that. If in your particular case you feel that there's something a little deeper that we need to discuss, Detective Rios is going to get your information, and we'll certainly speak with you afterward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Kelly?
Hi, thank you. Thanks for talking earlier with the Staten Island North Shore Indoor Pool Committee. We appreciate having that conversation. Staten Island's North Shore has a lot of potential, our waterfront, and we need your support and the support of many commissioners that are sitting right here to help shape it as a maritime education recreation corridor. It's a proposal, a community-driven proposal that's really born out of the fact that only 12% of the maritime workforce in New York is from New York. And we feel there's an opportunity there for Staten Island to capture those jobs. Those are great jobs. The average, we already have the potential. We have maritime museums, we have maritime businesses, et cetera, and we just need the city to help us connect the dots and lift that as a real plan. So I have with me a couple of packets. Let me know who to give them to. These are our plan for developing a maritime, we call it MERC, M-E-R-C-K. I mean, M-E-R-C. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate what you're trying to do because, well, first of all, I thought we had a very good conversation about the tremendous potential in this community. And what you heard me say, the potential I think we can achieve with the rezoning, and particularly with the Cromwell Center, which I think we can do something extraordinary there. I love the notion of jobs in one of, like, maritime industry is like the beginning of New York City history is the maritime industry, and there's a lot of potential in it still to this day. I want those jobs to go to New Yorkers. I want those jobs to go to Staten Islanders. So we are singing from the same hymnal here. What can we do about this, James?
Well, first off, we can certainly hear more about your specific ideas, which we'll come talk to you after about. The city actually last week announced a new plan called Freight NYC, which is a goal to create over 5,000 new jobs in the freight industry, including through waterfront and maritime, because we also believe that more of our goods need to come on ships as opposed to coming over on our highways and clogging up our streets. So I think that's a critical part of not just helping create jobs, but even better, also helping our environment and helping the traffic a little bit. So there's a lot of win-wins here. We actually have a workforce center that our agencies work together on to create. People should go there to get job opportunities in the maritime sector. Obviously, the global container terminal is a critical place which could grow and create more jobs for New Yorkers. So I'd love to hear more about your plan, and we'll come talk to you after. Okay. Let's do it. Let's do it.
So really quickly, just to connect the dots, we agree with you, and thanks to the funding from my friend at EDC, we opened up a workforce center specifically focused on maritime jobs. If anyone is interested, it's on the North Shore. It's on 1972 Richmond Terrace. So we focus on industrial and manufacturing. That's one of the sectors, and we recognize that Staten Island is the right place to do that. So we're already on it.
All right, thank you. Okay, all the way in the back, with the chain around. Yes, yeah. You with the chain, sitting down, the young man, yes.
Hi, my name is Davon Williams, and I'm a youth for part of Staten Island. This question is for the councilwoman.
Oh,
you have stated, excuse me? You have stated that investment into youth programs is a priority to you. Mm-hmm. So should the public trust you when under your watch the city council has decided to strip youth program budgets like Staten Island Youth Build?
So I'm glad you asked that question because there's some misinformation about Youth Build. The Youth Build program has not been stripped. Those dollars are still dedicated to the North Shore. And the city council is now going through the process of review, and they will have to vote on which programs will be actually funded. But Staten Island the funds are dedicated to the North Shore, and young people from the North Shore will definitely be able to participate in that program. Okay, so let's do it a little different. We're going to do two in a row. So, young lady here.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. My name is Jennifer Dacey. I am a parent of a special needs child at Gingerbread Learning Center, which, as you know, is scheduled to close in 2 weeks on August 10th. We've been hearing that there are programs that to be opened, but we haven't heard where or when, and my meeting's tomorrow, and I have no information, no placement.
Yes, thank you very, very much. I've talked to a lot of people who care deeply about the gingerbread situation. I've talked to parents, I've talked to teachers. I wanted to start at the beginning. We've all been put in a horrible situation, and no one more than you guys and your kids, because the owner, and we'll respect the justice process and due process, but the owner is accused of some very, very serious things. And that has made it impossible for the program to continue there. We're all stuck because we cannot funnel more money from the government to someone accused of defrauding the government. So that, unfortunately, takes us all out of that facility. What we've said very clearly is by the end of next week, every parent will be given a placement. We believe the distance from a typical parent's home to their new placement will be similar as the distance from their home to Gingerbread. Everything won't be perfect, but we believe it'll be similar. Same level of service for the special ed kids, exactly. So a lot of people come up to me and said, 8 to 1, 12 to 1, etc. Let me cut through it and make it simple as a layman. Same exact service. Whatever you got before, you will get again. I've heard some people say, including the council member, that there was a very strong community at Gingerbread. This is the thing we don't have a perfect answer for, because everything was in one place, and we would have loved to keep it in one place. We just can't do that now. But what I can tell you is every single parent will get the placement, same kind of service. If a parent, for whatever reason, feels the placement's a concern geographically or whatever it may be, we'll work with them. There'll still be a whole month plus till school begins. There'll be time to work it out. But we want to make sure everyone feels that they got a good outcome. Will it be perfect? Will it be the same thing you had before in terms of everyone in the same place who knew each other and all that? No, I'm not going to lie to you. It will not be as good by that measure. It will be just as good by a service measure, and a lot of very committed educators who want to help your kids will be part of making this work. So everyone will get that answer by the end of next week. Thank you.
Okay. Sir? Brian? Brian?
How you doing, Mayor? So this year in the mayor's office, you baseline funding for Work, Learn, Grow, which was the first time ever. So we want to say thank you for that. But going forward, what we've noticed is that a lot of the money that's needed for these programs, they're not being allocated as fast as we actually need them. Sonic programs, Compass programs, they wait till the last moment. We're only actually funding programs for less than 15% of our youth across the city, not just Staten Island, where 85% of our youth that need the programs are going underserved. Why is it that the mayor's office is not putting more money into our youth so that we can actually combat a lot of these programs?
Well, I appreciate the question, but I want to contest the assumption, honestly. I mentioned, that now having universal after-school programs for middle school kids, you know your history. 5 years ago, after-school programs were being cut back severely. It's now a universal right, which means right now, I'm trying to remember the exact number, but it's something like, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you my number. I don't know what number you mean, but I'm sure your number's good too. But I think citywide we're somewhere, maybe Bill Chong will know, from hold on, don't give another number here. You want to hear what I'm talking about. Kids who go to our after-school programs for middle school kids, we're over 100,000 citywide. We could add tens of thousands more, and we will pay for it. So that's a big open-ended commitment that we're proud to honor, and is totally a reversal from where things were a few years ago when after school was being cut and cut. Now, I want to be very clear with you about Sonic, and I've said it publicly. It's a beautiful program. We did not believe, compared to a host of other priorities for kids and otherwise, in this last budget, we were not going to do it. Just want to be real, and I think that position will hold next year as well. Just need to understand, in our view of choices and priorities, we weren't going to do it. A last-minute decision was made with the council to bring it back. That's why everything happened so late. Now, on Compass, Bill, I need your help on this because I don't remember on Compass the timing, but I think we want to make sure, your question, underlying question, I want to put aside Sonic because we just have a disagreement with the council.
Well, on Compass, there was last-minute money added as well in the budget adoption. But I know the Compass question that keeps on coming up, which is the elementary program, is everyone wants a universal elementary program, and that is very costly.
Right.
That's
and
a couple $100 million.
And we're not in a position to do that. But what we can do on Compass, I think could be better, is try and set an earlier deadline for resolution. If it's going to make the cut, if it's not going to make the cut, to give more lead time. So I think, Bill, what I'd love you to do, follow-up afterwards, is when's the real date that people need to know to be able to,
For a summer program, probably April is drop dead.
So let's come back, because that aligns to the executive budget, basically.
Right.
Let's see. But I'm just being real with you. Sonic, giant question mark for the future. Compass, we believe, has been very productive, just a matter of how much. But we'll try and now get that decision to be a little earlier to address what you're raising. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, we disagree, Debbie.
Sonic.
We disagree. It's a democracy.
Good evening, Mayor de Blasio and Ms. Debbie Rose and all the agencies over here and everyone in the room right now. First off, I would like to thank Mayor de Blasio for giving us Eid, a holiday off, and universal preschool. This is not really a question, it's more of a comment, and it's regards to education. I've been following up on the news regards to SHSAT, and I heard that you were going to scrape the SHSAT. So in my opinion, I don't feel like that you should scrape the SHSAT because I've been preparing and dedicating my time to study for the SHSAT and work my butt off to get into a specialized high school. And now all of a sudden, anyone could just get in, and I don't think that's fair.
All right, let me speak to that. Thank you very much for your comments. What grade are you in? 8th going to 9th? You look older. I'm impressed. Okay. First of all, so you're an 8th grader. That's a very articulate presentation for an 8th grader. Let's give him a big round of applause. Okay. I want to argue to you that the way that we have been making decisions all these years about the most prestigious schools in our public high school system has been the wrong way. I'm going to argue this to you. It's been broken for a long time. And before I talk about equality, I just want to talk about the very way we decide what makes a strong student. So somewhere back along the line, decades ago, it came down to a single 3-hour test was what determined whether someone get into one of those schools. I had my team do the research, and they looked all around the country. They couldn't find anything like it. They looked at the most prestigious institutions of higher education in the country. You can call up tomorrow, call up Harvard University, call up Yale, call up Stanford. They do not choose their students based on a single test. No one else does this but our specialized high schools. And I think that's a problem. So first, I think it's not allowing us to see the true talent of our young people. We believe we would transition out of the single test and base the admissions on a combination of grades and how students did on the statewide exams, which every student takes. Remember, a specialized high school test, only a very small percentage even take. Everybody takes the statewide exams. So right now, literally half of our middle schools in this city send 0 kids to the specialized schools. That makes no sense. There are talented, good kids in every single one of our middle schools. So what we believe is, by going to a system where you give each kid a score based on a combination of their grades over 3 years, their performance on the statewide math and English exam, they get a composite score, top 7% of each middle school would get into a specialized school. That's a lot more fair, in my view. And then we're not doing back and forth. No, we don't do back and forth. You know, you don't get a round 2, brother. You don't get a round 2. Now, the final comment I want to make, if you want to talk more, you better run for mayor, okay? You want the microphone, then run for mayor. Okay. I put him in his place, didn't I? Now, the final point I want to make is, right now, and I'm going to use Stuyvesant as the example, possibly the most renowned. Now, look around this room. You see New York City, right? You see every kind of person, every kind of background. This is actually what New York City is all about. Stuyvesant today, the most recent admitted class, was 1% black and 3% Latino. That's not fair. So that's why it needs a change. Thank you.
Thank you. I see you, but I'm going there. We're going to get to, if people keep their questions short, we will be able to get to most of you, so.
Thank you for this opportunity. Good evening. My daughter attends PS 59, the Harborview School, which is a project-based learning elementary school. There is no project-based learning middle school on Staten Island that we can look forward to. What can and will you, the mayor, do to help facilitate the finalization of the proposed harbor and maritime-themed middle school that would fill this need? There is a site that has been reviewed by SCA, by the School Construction Authority. An environmental impact study has been completed, and it's supported by the Harbor High School on Governor's Island, as well as the Harbor Foundation. Please help us. And I'm speaking for a community from a Title I school. We have no school to send these children to that have been given this very special pedagogy, this opportunity that is unique.
Okay. I think I got the basics, and I appreciate the question very much. I'm checking with the experts here. I think the easiest way to say it is, this idea is very much on the mind of the Department of Education. There's a potential site. There's not a final decision, but we've got two key people here, Deputy Chancellor and the head of the School Construction Authority. So we'll make sure it gets to the Chancellor so we can, when I say a final decision, I never try and tell people it's exactly what you want, but it's time to give you a decision one way or another. So this is why town hall meetings are good. You've got it on our agenda, and we're going to come back with a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, right here. And then you, no.
Good evening, Mayor de Blasio. Thank you, Councilmember Rose. I'd like to pivot back to a conversation in relation to systemic changes. So, in my daily profession, in my professional career, I work with young people who are often court-involved, justice-involved. One of my concerns, which is not specific to Staten Island, but of course as a native Staten Islander, I have a personal, intimate experience with, is that fare evasion has been coming up as a more frequent criminal charge with the young people that I work with. And I'm of the philosophy that, you know, in addition to the work that's being done at Rikers, that we really want to look at the strategies, the organizations, the tactics that are in place to reduce a young person's involvement in the system. And for missing a bus fare, it's killing my spirit to see young people go through the system of court-based involvement, stemming from the arrest to appearing in court. So, I'm sorry. I'll get to my question.
Okay.
I've read recently in the news about how you have an effort to allow low-income-based families the opportunity to
The fair fare.
the fair fares. And I believe that fare evasion charges would probably be directly related to an issue as such. So how could that,
How do they come
how
together?
specifically is that, could that address that issue?
So I think it will have a big impact. And the City Council really pushed hard for the fair fare concept, which are half-priced Metro cards for lower-income folks. So I think that's part of the solution. Look, NYPD has been steadily reducing fare evasion arrests, but I want to be very clear. We do not want a situation where the message is it's okay to evade the fare. It's just not. I'll say this to the ends of the earth. I've said it at town hall meetings all over the city. Not okay to not pay your fare. But that being said, we are trying to reduce the number of arrests. If someone's a repeat offender, like a serious repeat offender, if someone has other charges, they still run the risk of arrest. If it's something that happens very occasionally, there's much less exposure to arrest. There still may be a summons or something like that, but not arrest as much at all. But I think the thing that all I can ask here is while we're trying to make reforms on the criminal justice side and we're trying to provide support on the fare side, we still have to send a message to young people to not evade the fare because it just sets up another kind of inequality if people think they can do that regularly. It's very unfair to all the people who do pay the fare. So we got to strike a balance in that.
Okay. Okay. Yes, you. Not mine.
Mr. Mayor, this is a very strong issue that I'm going to be raising here tonight. It concerns many people living here on Staten Island, especially those who own homes, like my family. In Staten Island, the average citizen pays 1.12% in the effective property tax rate, but in other parts of the city, they pay roughly 0.84%. What efforts have you made to reduce the property taxes in Staten Island and in other places in the city where the property taxes are very high? And in addition to that, why don't we have a property tax system based on the property value versus how many or how few renovations you can make on our home or how many changes you can make on our home?
Thank you. Excellent question. I like your energy there. Good job. Okay, let me tell you what we've done and then what we're going to try and do. What we have done, and I think it's important, a lot of people don't focus on it, but I am also a homeowner, and I remember when previous mayors raised the property tax rate. Okay. We, in the last 5 years, have not raised the property tax rate. There's been assessments. People's values have gone up. That's one reason why some people are paying more, but that's a different question than the actual property tax rate. We have kept that stable now for 5 years, and we intend to do that for years to come. The second question, which is very much related, is water bills. And water bills, I know this from when I used to be public advocate, we did a lot of work on this. Water bills used to be a catch-all where the city used the water bill to also throw in other things the city wanted, so it's basically a hidden tax. We now have a prohibition on that. The only thing that can go into your water bill is a cost related directly to water. In fact, we were able to do a rebate to homeowners in the last year because we were able to stop that practice. Now, to your question, which is, I would argue, making the system consistent across all neighborhoods of all incomes, all geographies. We have a property tax commission that just got named. The council participated with us fully. It is absolutely a joint effort. The property tax commission will come back with proposed legislation, both for the city level and the state level. Whatever it comes back with, I would say, is going to do very well at the city level because we're all working on it together. The state is another challenge, but we hope for the next legislative session starting in January to have proposals that the state can vote on, particularly on this question. It should not be different from one neighborhood to another. That's the bottom line. But I'm saying, that's why, I'm agreeing with you, pal, that's why we want to do a commission that says, here is something that the city can do and the state can do to actually create consistency across all neighborhoods. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay. That person. And Neil? Yes, you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. How are you? I'm Joe Meislick. I'm an independent advocate for homeless veterans. And my question to you is, when are we going to make the veterans in our city, which really 1 in 7 people that live in the city is a veteran, when are we going to make them a priority and find them housing so that we can join 7 other cities in New York and have a 0% of homeless veterans?
Thank you. So in the previous presidential administration, a goal was set for the country to end chronic veteran homelessness. That means homelessness that was recurring, a veteran who was homeless a lot of the time. And New York City met that goal, and I'm proud of that. Now, a lot of people, I'm sure you were one of them, helped us get there. Now, we still have a problem that I find unacceptable, and you find unacceptable, that on any given night, there could be a veteran on our streets, and that doesn't make any sense to me. We do prioritize, so I want to make sure there's not any misunderstanding on this. We do prioritize for affordable housing veterans. Veterans have a preference in our affordable housing lottery. Anyone who needs affordable housing and is a veteran, I've been with some of the veterans when they moved into their affordable housing. We need to get that word around, that there are apartments reserved for veterans, permanent affordable housing. But also in terms of our shelter system, I want to give homeless services a lot of credit. They now have found better ways to get people off the streets, to the tune of, in the last 2 years, they've gotten over 1,800 people who were street homeless to come in and not go back to the streets. They've gotten, what's your number of people who were in shelter and you got to permanent housing?
Almost 94,000.
94,000 in the last 4 years came into shelter and got to permanent housing. So they're doing a great job of turning things around. So I'm going to let Jocelyn Carter, who's the administrator of Homeless Services, speak, but I want to say, please spread the word, everyone. There is a preference for veterans to get affordable housing.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. So every veteran.
Hold on, let her speak.
No, back and forth, sir. She's going to answer your question.
So like the mayor says, we have moved. Now, we do prioritize veterans, but as people come to us, we make sure that they get to the top of the list and we pay special attention to them. Any veteran on our street right now in Staten Island, there are 2, and one actually had an apartment viewing today. The second one passed the background check, and he's going to have we're waiting for his viewing. So the 2 that are in Staten Island, we're moving towards, but throughout the city, we focus highly on veterans, and they're exiting from shelter. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, listen, I just want to thank you, Mayor Blasio, for yesterday's conversation about the indoor pool. But I want to talk about education on a very positive note. You set up some community schools when you came into administration. Great work. These community schools are working. And I'm part of the Coalition of Educational Justice. You have a program I would like you to explain to them so that maybe some of our teachers and our educators in here would know about cultural responsive education. You funded us $42 million for a citywide effort to do implicit bias training, and in terms of cultural responsive, meaning culturally responsive education. Culturally responsive means we respond to the community's education. Could you explain more and elaborate more on CRE?
We do believe very much, you mentioned the community schools, we believe in the community school initiative. As you said, we got 215 of them around the city now. We definitely believe in culturally responsive education. Deputy Chancellor will give them a sense of the kinds of things we've been doing.
We have them in many of our schools. In fact, this summer we're training all of our principals in implicit bias behavior. And we've done cultural relevant pedagogy in Staten Island a lot. In fact, at New Dorp High School was the first to really take it on a few years ago. And the principal has really expanded it. So it really is in Staten Island. It's been working very hard. And we have a whole unit in the Department of Education under LaShawn Robinson who's doing this work. So we believe in this work and we want it to continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Margie, and you. The next
Okay, let's keep going, everyone. We can get a lot more in. Let's go.
Okay, my name is Marjorie Garvin, and I'm very concerned. I've been working in Staten Island for 40 years. I'm not going to tell you all the years together, but 40 years I've been working for a community center, and I just learned that we're going to get a new pool at a Petriti school.
No, that is not accurate. Okay, I had a whole meeting on this just the other day. No decision has been made on the location of the pool. But I want to be clear. We are looking at a variety of options. I like to be really straightforward. I met with some advocates just the other day. I'm not here to tell people what they want to hear. I'm telling people the exact truth as it stands. There will be somewhere a new indoor pool. We're trying to figure out how and where. We're looking at different sites. They must be accessible to public transportation. They must be a site that works for everyone. Meanwhile, the Cromwell issue is about to become very live in the rezoning process, and we've got to figure out everything we need to do at Cromwell. So those are 2 different pieces being worked on simultaneously, and stay tuned. Thank you.
I think she was talking about Park Hill, the community center in Park Hill.
What's that?
She was talking about a community center in Park Hill.
Well, you're going to ask that because we're going to stick to our one question to a person rule. So if you want to ask that, we can. And we've got about 15 minutes left, so let's try and go as fast as we can.
Is that all? Okay.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the wonderful job you do for us, for our communities, both of you. I'm a Port Richmond resident for 35 years. Our community is coming up a lot. We've gone through a lot.
Okay, what's your question? We got to go fast to get many people in.
There's 2 properties that were bought, and they're going to build 2 hotels.
Yes.
The hotels there are, I've been told, I support Project Hospitality a lot,
Yeah.
and they already have a site, which is not going to be these two hotels. So I just like a confirmation from the
Yep.
commissioner telling me that these hotels are not going to be bought by the city. I would love,
I'll give you the confirmation. How's that?
thank you.
Commissioner, stand down. No, I'm going to be as straightforward as I can be. We're building shelters. We're not using hotels. So the hotel, whoever the hotel owner is and whatever he's doing, that's his thing, has nothing to do with us. I announced 90 new shelters around the city because we want to build them to our own specifications and build them where the population in need is. So that hotel is a private thing. We are not involved. We will not be involved.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Pat Kane. I'm a registered nurse. I'm also a candidate for Assembly in the North Shore of Staten Island. I just want to follow up. We had a really good meeting last night. I am a Port Richmond resident. Been living there most of my life. So what can we do? Because the last thing we want to see is two buildings go up that are really doomed to fail. I mean, there is really very little, if any, call at all for hotel rooms in Port Richmond. And there are so many other things that our community needs. And we would love to work with the city and talk about the ideas that we have for the community and try to develop a plan to get there. But what can we do? Is there a licensing process? Is there anything that we can do?
Best I know, and if someone on my team knows different, come over and correct me. But this is quote unquote as of right. I don't know of any way, if the owner is within their rights to develop land and they have a legal ability to do it, if they want to build a hotel and they think there's some reason they can fill a hotel with clientele from the private sector, like any other hotel, tourists or whoever, that's their free enterprise decision. We don't get to stop that. Now, I have a critique of what a lot of people do in the free enterprise system, and I wish they'd be more community focused. But I don't want to lie to you, there's some magic bullet here. There's not. What I can tell you is we don't want anything to do with those hotels. But if the owner builds hotels and has some vision of filling it up with tourists or anything else, that's his problem. If it fails, I suspect it will then be turned into some other kind of housing, but it ain't going to involve us.
Yes, you. Listen.
Good evening, Debbie. Mr. Mayor.
My
question is this. It's been documented that Staten Island is a transportation desert. We have the longest commute in the city. Instead of having another study about the feasibility and the possibility of the West Shore Rail Line, which we all know we need, the Staten Island population continues to grow. Instead of doing that, why not do a cost-benefit analysis on completing the existing tunnel from Brooklyn to Staten Island, which would stop the amount of traffic, because then everybody here on Staten Island wouldn't have to drive. You could be connected to the city, and also do the West Shore Rail Line, because we need it all.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if anyone over here knows the history on that tunnel enough to speak to Tom. You do?
Yes.
Not sure.
Yeah, I think
There-
that's a long shot, but go ahead, Tom.
There
What do you
was a little stub of a tunnel that started during the Joseph Palma administration in the 1930s, but never was continued.
So you mean a full subway tunnel? That's the theory?
Right.
Okay. So look, you're as a question of in a world I wish we lived in is it a good idea? Yes, it's a good idea. You just saw the godforsaken 2nd Avenue subway. It took 20 years to go 3 stops. So I'm just trying to be a truth teller because I can tell you're one. I don't think our anytime near future is subway expansion. And we know I have a critique of the MTA. They seem to take a lot of money to take a long time to do things. And I just don't think that's where the change is coming. Now, I think what is real is select bus service. We're trying to bring that in. I think there's a real interesting possibility to connect to the Bayonne line, but I just don't think a subway Brooklyn to Staten Island is in the cards, certainly not in my lifetime. But we're going to try and move the other things. So
We're getting there.
Yeah, but we're going to get, you got to move fast, everyone, because we're trying to get around to the last few people. Go ahead.
Cindy Vorsby, New Brighton. I have a question about parks funding. Staten Island is the borough with the second largest acreage of parkland after the Bronx. When the Department of Parks and Recreation apportions the funding for annual operating expenses, the amount of acreage is not taken into consideration. Instead, the borough...
Okay, give us the punchline. What you want to know why?
Okay, so my question is, will you re-examine how the funding is apportioned? Because it's apportioned by parks based on which parks have the lowest rankings when they're inspected internally by parks, or which boroughs have the largest population. But we have the second largest amount of acreage. And that means you need gardeners, you need plumbers,
I got it.
Workers.
Commissioner, I'm going to start the answer real quick. We're going to move quick. I do get the point about acreage. As a common sense matter, I think usage is probably the single most important factor. Quick answer. Turn on your microphone.
We look at the type of land. A heavily used playground and a wooded area is not treated the same, but we constantly look at our apportionment across the city and we make adjustments when necessary.
So that's the answer on the broad priority, but the make adjustments when necessary means bring us issues case by case and we're going to look at them. Go ahead. Okay, quick. Let's see how many we can get done, people.
Yes, my name is Ja. I'm a broadcast journalist out here. I just want to say the racism and unjust needs to be addressed here. I also want to say we need you here more than once a week every summer. You know what I'm saying? That's not acceptable. But my question is, I live in a neighborhood right here, Richmond Terrace, and we're very underdeveloped, and they keep going around us and building other stuff that my neighborhood don't need. We have 7 grocery stores, no supermarket, no medical, nothing, you know what I'm saying? And I'm tired of calling Debbie Rose's office and hearing, do you think Debbie Rose cares about this? So I'm addressing it to you now.
Thank you. So I'm not 100% sure what you're getting at in terms of if you're focused on the question of the supermarkets. Okay, doctor's offices. Okay, so basically services being available in the community. Okay, so I don't have a simple answer because I don't know enough about what's there. I want to see if any member of the team has an answer of a specific question of how we address the services available in the community. Go ahead, James.
Sure. Well, if your community is a food desert, we can offer tax benefits to grocery stores and supermarkets to encourage them to locate more in your community. So I'd love to talk more about what's available, and maybe we have a lot of relationships with supermarket operators, and maybe we can encourage them to come to the community. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so the doctor's office is a little bit trickier, but the supermarkets, there's a specific funding stream to try and help them. So let's start with that, and then we can try and work on the doctor's offices from there. But yes, we can work with you and the council member, try and bring in a supermarket.
And there's also a number of community gardens and farms that are cropping up in the neighborhood where fresh produce is being made available free of charge. We have a farm at Snook Harbor where produce is made available for people in the community. And we are working, we're getting a H&H medical facility on the corner of Tompkins and whatever. And we can talk to you about other services.
Wait a minute, did you say the corner of Tompkins and whatever?
I'm sorry. That's Tompkins and Vanderbilt Avenues. And it's wonderful, it's state of the art. And so we had a soft opening, and there's going to be a big opening soon. So yes. Okay. Yes.
My name is Lilliana Duncan. I want to thank you for everything that you and Mr. de Blasio have done. I know we mentioned the inequalities and everything of the court system. Well, we did mention, I want to mention the court systems that I was personally affected by the inequality.
Get to
my
your
question is, being that you did get the cameras put on officers and everything, could we use it in the court system as far as the DMV court as well? Because I recently had got 4 tickets from an officer that did not hand me 4 tickets, and I believe his video cam would have proved that he never gave me 4 tickets. So if we could use that in the DMV court. And also I had a lawyer, Kevin McKernan, that one time tried to force me to take a charge that I know I did not do, for the charges I didn't know I did not do. And I had to pay for a lawyer, and I still owe him money.
Okay, so let me separate the 2 pieces. I'm not sure in your case where the lawyer came from, if it was the Office of Court Administration or who assigned the lawyer. But if you had a situation where a lawyer you thought treated you inappropriately, it's important to file a formal complaint, and we can have our team. Marco, you're going to figure this out. Will you follow up with her about how she can file a complaint? On the question of body cameras, I want to remind everyone that every NYPD officer on patrol will be wearing a body camera by the end of this year, and that's a big step forward for transparency and accountability in this city. I think it'll be good for everyone involved. And yes, if it's a situation that the body camera is supposed to be on, that information is something that becomes a part of the legal process. So that will, I think it's going to improve the situation again for everyone. When the police officer's done everything they were supposed to do, they're going to have perfect proof of it. If in any case, unfortunately, that's not the case, there'll also be proof of it, but that will be universal by the end of this year. Go ahead, Debbie. And Debbie, we're going to do 5, wait, Debbie, 5 more. You are going to be the decider. Choose 5 people, Debbie.
Well, I already,
no pressure, Debbie. No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Already
Mr. Mayor, I was the victim of one of the most brutal crimes ever committed in the history of Port Richmond High School. I was removed as the track coach and teacher at that school. I was there as track coach for 26 years. I was there as a teacher for 34 years. And it all happened because a principal at the school was having an affair with the social studies person, and there was some crap going on with my kids were already set to go to college.
Okay, sir, I'm going to just stop you for a second. It's obviously a very...
I have a packet that I will give to you.
Good. I will accept it, and I'm going to still give you 5 questions, Debbie.
Good.
So let's pick up from there.
Larry, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Larry Leedy, owner of the oldest bar in Staten Island. Come down and have a beer on me. The marijuana issue.
Yes,
is
sir.
that going to be voted on by the public or the politicians?
You mean the potential legalization?
Yeah, the potential, yeah.
So right now, there's been a lot of talk about the issue.
You have a question?
The governor's health commissioner came out and said there should be legalization. The only way there can be legalization in the state of New York is a vote of the state legislature. That can only the earliest that could happen is 2019.
Legitimate question.
Thank you. Go ahead, Deb.
Okay, I pointed out Lillian, right?
Yes. Oh, hi. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Councilmember Rose, thank you for holding this forum. My name is Lillian Lagazzo. I live in St. George. We've talked a lot this evening about reclaiming Tompkinsville Park, and I commend all those involved, the DA, the community, the police department, the council member, and your administration. We talk about Bay Street Corridor and economic development. I'd like to bring your attention to the fact that across from the park is the Department of Social Services. HRA has a contract there. It's a block-long forefront, and it's...
Question.
We know the problem for sure. So what's your question?
I ask that you consider relocating the services so that the community will come out. It's a darkened block from evenings, weekends. We want to make it a viable block.
So let me say this. We have been working all week with the council member, NYPD, Parks Department, and some community leaders who've been very involved to come up with a bigger solution for the park. It is 110% on my radar, And I think very soon we're going to be able to come forward with a plan. There's still a little bit more work to do, but we're going to be coming forward with a plan. Lighting is a very big part of what we're talking about because I think the lighting problem is one of the things that's underlying all the other problems. So stay tuned very soon. 3 more.
Hi, my name is Hilda. I'm part.
3 more.
Hi. My name is Hilda. I'm part of Friends of Manners Harbors Park. We're actually part of the Partnership for Parks program this year, and we've been working towards doing several events in the parks in our community. Recently, we had a park, the big park, that was reconstructed and open, and we submitted a permit to have a back-to-school event. And we were told that due to the feedback they received from the community about the baseball field being overutilized by outsiders, that they're putting a hold on all permits for that park.
That sounds interesting to me.
And
Come on
additionally
over.
to that, this week I was told that
Why are you standing there? Come over here where I am, Mitch.
Yeah, for no special events, only for basketball games. And then this week, I was told that there was another group that wants to have an event in the park, and that if we wanted to have our event, we had to partner with them. So there's been a lot of confusion back and forth.
Okay, how can we make this simpler?
And yeah, I have 80 petitions from people in the area, actually 90, from people in the area.
We did a community visioning, and one of the requests was that we would replace the baseball field, which was a permitted activity, to more of a multi-purpose field with a walking track around it. That recommendation came from the community. About your specific request is something I'll have to follow up to know more details, but to permit it for baseball is no longer an activity that's being encouraged. It's now a multi-purpose field, and it was community-driven, and that's what the design reflects. But I'll follow up with you to find out specifically about your permit issue.
So let's just want to, you're raising a very good point. This is, I want to now, since we have 2 more questions after this, remind you, he's the Parks Commissioner for the whole city, and he wants to solve your problem, and he's standing here. So don't let him get away, okay? Just in 2 more questions, we're going to shut down, then pursue him and get your answer, okay?
Come on, quick.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Debbie Rose, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Sean Stratford of Stratford Funeral Home. I had one question I was going to ask, but I changed it.
Okay, you're allowed.
It is for HRA. We serve a lot of underprivileged families that do not have funds, and it is unfortunate that HRA only gives $900. Is there anything in the plan that you have, in the works to raise that amount? There are other cities that.
Okay, since that's a very fair question, and since Debbie, it's. We're going to give an answer, but since I think this is a narrow question, we're going to give you a refund. You still have 2 more questions. Now, Grace will follow up with you directly. Grace, I don't know of anything we're doing on that front.
Let's talk, because sometimes it has to do with state.
Okay, but I'm saying as a policy matter, I don't think we have a particular plan in mind, but we welcome one. The administrator will work with you to try and address your issue. 2, if you have a proposal, you would be the first person to bring it to us, so we'll get thinking about it. So talk to her after. 2 more questions.
Okay, so Saul, come on.
Good evening, Mayor de Blasio. Thank you for coming out here this evening. I have a question about what the administration plans to do for overcrowded schools in Port Richmond. The elementary schools in Port Richmond are overcrowded by 127%. People who live in the neighborhood can't send their children there, and there are no plans, as far as we're on record, to put more schools in the area, and we can't have any more infrastructure. There are just no plans for it. So what does the administration plan to do?
Okay, I need one quick consultation before the answer. Come here.
We can address as
All right.
And now the answer is ready.
My name's Lorraine Grilla, and I'm president of the School Construction Authority. And we are always looking at the demographics in these areas, and in particular in Port Richmond. And while we look at that, we are also looking for sites throughout the area that could potentially be used to relieve some of your overcrowding. So I don't have a specific site in mind right now, but certainly we're constantly looking at that.
So wait, let's see if we can, just Lorraine, for everyone's benefit, come over 1 second. I'm sorry, let's just finish this answer out a little bit. Just remind me, maybe you said it and I missed it. How much is in the pipeline, and is that high school or not? Because I know in the briefing we talked about how much is coming.
No, it's not high school at this
What
point.
is coming, just so everyone hears?
Elementary school, an elementary school in your area, absolutely, on Targi Street.
And how many seats?
It's over 600 seats.
Okay, so hearing your question loud and clear, more school seats are coming to the community. We do not have an answer yet for the high school level. We need to get one and put it into our next plan. True?
Correct.
Correct, okay.
In that area, he's actually talking about the elementary schools. Okay. All right. Yeah.
This is it. You make the choice, Debbie.
No.
Hello.
The next person you call on will be the winner of. Okay, go ahead.
Your Honor, first of all, thank you very much for spending your time to be with us and allowing us to voice our opinion.
Thank you.
My question is short and sweet. My name is John Wakey. I live in the Travis section of Staten Island,
Yes.
where the parade is.
I love it. Beautiful neighborhood.
I still have your hot dogs, by the way.
Question.
My question is, this October, this Victory Boulevard is slated for major sewer replacement. Now, right now, we have no truck restriction in place. We have big, huge trucks. The kids that will be walking to school will be less than 2 feet from these trucks as they're walking on the sidewalk, because they took away the parking on the eastbound side of the street. My question to you is very simple. Can we please put back the truck restriction?
That's a great question, and
Put
let's
it back
bring...
to two-axle trucks.
Vinny, why are you standing back there? Come over here. Come to where I am.
Good.
Okay.
So,
now, this is our DEP Commissioner, Vinny Sapienza. Now, so the question, you have a job to do, obviously, but this is a very sensitive matter. I'm really glad you raised it, of your trucks in close proximity to kids. How are we going to address that?
We will take a look at it. I'm Vinny Sapienza with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. Generally, those jobs are done for DEP by the Department of Design and Construction in coordination with Department of Transportation. We'll sit with you, see what your concerns are, and the three agencies will address them.
Okay, let me just, that's good, but let me just pump it up a little bit. Obviously, the most important thing is protecting kids. We have an important job to do. We have to protect kids. So Lorraine Grillo, who you just heard from, who's wearing two hats now because she's also leading the charge in reforming our Department of Design and Construction while running the School Construction Authority. She does not sleep at night. She just keeps working all day long. It's beautiful. So Lorraine and Vinny will follow up with you, but we need to see a safety plan that the community can have confidence in. Okay? And you're going to help us figure out what that should look like. Okay? Everybody, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.